You. Yeah, you. Come here for a sec. I just wanted to say, look at you. Seriously, look at you. Still breathing, still thinking, still walking around after everything they tried to do to your name. That's kinda wild, don't you think? You tilt your head, and there's this little smirk tugging at the corner of your mouth because deep down, you already know where this is going. See, I've been watching you for a while. Watching you deal with people who swore you were soft, harmless, easy to push around. People who treated your whole life like some cheap little joke. People who kept poking, laughing, whispering, scrolling past you like you were background noise. People who thought messing with you was just routine. Something they could do on their break. Something they could forget by lunch. But, here's the funny part. The moment you actually stood up, the moment you stretched your spine 1 inch higher, their whole damn signal cut out. Static, glitches, panic in their eyes like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. Because you weren't supposed to rise, right? You weren't supposed to talk back. You weren't supposed to get confident or smart or disciplined. You weren't supposed to confront the very people who fed off your silence. But you did, and oh, that broke something in them. They had this image of you, this toy version they carried around in their head, this puppet who never fought back, this ghost who never took up space, this quiet little thing who stayed in the corner nodding, apologizing, shrinking. But then you stood. You stood like someone who finally remembered their damn worth. And that moment, that single shift, it knocked out their whole broadcast. You ever seen someone lose control of a situation so fast that their whole face turns into one big buffering wheel? That's what happened. 1 second they were the main character in your story, bossing you around, laughing, pointing, and the next second you stepped forward like, hi, I'm done with that. Their voices shook, their hands trembled, their confidence evaporated like sweat on asphalt. Because the minute you stopped being the joke, they became the ones exposed. They couldn't hide behind the noise anymore. They couldn't pretend you were weak. They couldn't pretend you didn't notice. They couldn't pretend they weren't obsessed with controlling you. They wanted you small. They needed you small. Your silence kept their whole little power grid running. And the instant you unplugged from their games, their circuit blew. Here's the thing nobody tells you. People who mock you, people who underestimate you, people who play with your heart, your name, your time, they don't actually think you're weak. Nah, that's the mask. They're scared you might wake up one day and actually see yourself. Because once you do, once you see who you really are, they can't handle you anymore. You ever notice how loud the room gets? Right when you start healing, right when you start moving different, right when you stop responding to nonsense. Suddenly everybody's voice rises because their control is dying. And the crazy part? The whole time they were laughing at you, they never expected you to survive what they put you through. But you did. Every rumor, every betrayal, every time they lied on your name, every moment they made you feel small, every time they celebrated your pain behind your back, you survived. And now you walk around with this energy, this quiet, loaded, dangerous calm that makes the same people who mocked you start checking over their shoulders. You know why? Because your glow is starting to expose their shadows. Your strength is exposing their intentions. Your growth is highlighting their immaturity. Your clarity is threatening their confusion. And your presence, your simple, unapologetic presence, is scrambling whatever signal they once used to feel superior to you. They tried to program you, tried to turn you into predictable code, tried to train you to shrink whenever they raised their voice, tried to keep you stuck in emotional poverty because they knew if you ever chose yourself, if you ever stood tall, if you ever became aware of your own power, they were done. You rising wasn't just inconvenient for them, it was catastrophic. People who built their ego on top of your silence can't function when you start talking. People who built their confidence on your insecurities freeze when they see you healing. People who felt powerful playing with you start malfunctioning the second you stop entertaining their games. Oh, and let's not pretend. They noticed the shift. They noticed the tone change. They noticed the way you stopped laughing at their dry jokes. They noticed the way your yeah became sharper, shorter, almost surgical. They noticed the way you began walking with a certain, I don't know, electricity? Like every step you take now has purpose. Like you're not wandering anymore. Like you actually know who you are. And that scares them. It scares them because they can't predict you now. It scares them because they can't manipulate you now. It scares them because you stopped offering explanations. It scares them because your energy is colder, clearer, wiser. It scares them because you carry yourself like someone who's done being played with. You're not the punchline anymore. You're the plot twist. You're not the background noise. You're the static that shuts the whole system down. You're not the easy target they once fed on. You're the shockwave that exposes the hunters. You rose. You stood. You disrupted the entire power dynamic. And the moment you did, their signal, the one they used to control you, mock you, humiliate you, belittle you, went silent. You know what people do when the lights go out. They panic, they scramble, they bump into the truth they were trying to avoid. That's what happened when you finally stood tall. Your existence became the outage that forced everyone to see who they really were in the dark, and it keeps shifting everything around you. Because once that darkness hit, you could practically feel the temperature in the room change. People who used to laugh with their whole chest suddenly got real quiet, real fast. People who thought you were just decoration started watching you like you were holding the blueprint to their downfall. It's hilarious, honestly. The same mouths that tossed your name around like scrap paper suddenly didn't know how to speak. Like their vocabulary just evaporated. And you're standing there, breathing steady, not even trying to flex, not even trying to prove anything, just existing with this new frequency in your chest. This calm, heavy, grounded energy that whispers, yeah, try me again. And every time you exhale, something in them glitches because they can't plug into you anymore. They can't use your insecurities as a charging port. They can't run their ego off your self-doubt. They can't treat you like emotional furniture. Just something in the room they bump into without thinking. You became untouchable in the most human way possible. Not icy, not arrogant, just aware. Aware of who you are, aware of what you survived, aware of how badly they miscalculated you. And that awareness, it hits harder than any revenge could. People don't malfunction because you get loud. People malfunction because you get clear. When you stop explaining your pain to people who caused it. When you stop negotiating your boundaries with people who violated them. When you stop giving your loyalty to people who never earned your vulnerability. When you stop letting your heart be a playground for anyone bored enough to step on it. That clarity disrupts their whole identity. They can't figure out who they are without you playing the role they assigned you. You weren't supposed to be strong. You weren't supposed to be bold. You weren't supposed to be this version of yourself. The version who looks in the mirror and doesn't flinch anymore. And the wild part is, you didn't even announce the shift. You didn't post some new chapter speech or make some dramatic exit. You just started choosing yourself in tiny, subtle ways. A shorter text, a colder tone, a quieter reaction, a delayed reply, a raised eyebrow, a casual, yeah, I'm not doing that. Small things, small adjustments, but those little shifts, they hit them like earthquakes. Because people who rely on your silence notice the sound of your confidence even when you whisper. And that's exactly when their signal cut out. Not when you screamed, not when you snapped, not when you fought back in some dramatic explosion. It was when you finally detached from the storyline they wrote for you. When you stopped performing the version of you that made them comfortable. When you stepped into the version of you that made you proud. And suddenly they're staring at you like, who the hell is this? And you're thinking, the person I was always supposed to be. They kept trying to reboot the old you. The passive one, the forgiving one, the shrinking one. The one that let things slide. The one that smiled through disrespect. The one they could drain without consequence. But the old software doesn't run anymore. You updated in silence. You rebuilt yourself in private. You upgraded your self-worth while they were busy underestimating you. And every time they try to engage with the old version of you, their whole emotional Wi-Fi crashes, buffering, frozen, error screen, signal lost, because they're finally realizing something that terrifies them. You outgrew the cage they designed around your potential. You're not playing character anymore. You're not waiting for validation. You're not handing out second chances like discount coupons. You're not filling emotional voids that aren't yours to fix. You're here, present, aware, and dangerous in a quiet, steady way. The kind of dangerous that comes from healing instead of hurting. The kind of dangerous that comes from choosing yourself without apology. The kind of dangerous that comes from recognizing exactly who mistook your kindness for weakness and exactly who's trembling now that you stopped letting them. And the best part, you don't even need to say anything. Your energy is doing the talking for you. Your presence is doing the heavy lifting. Your silence is doing the exposing. Your growth is doing the haunting. And it keeps shifting everything around you. Because every step you take from this point on hits different. Like you're walking with this quiet thunder under your skin. And the people who used to laugh at you, they feel it. They feel it in their chest, in their throat, in that little shaky breath they take whenever you enter a room. It's wild how fast the energy flips when you stop being the one who absorbs everything. You ever notice that? The moment you stopped carrying everyone's emotional garbage, the moment you stopped cleaning up messes that weren't yours, the moment you stopped trying to prove your worth to people who weren't even worth your time, that's when something in them short-circuited. Because, they depended on that old version of you. They depended on the version who'd apologize for things that weren't your fault. They depended on the version who'd smile through disrespect. They depended on the version who'd stay small just to make them feel bigger. They depended on you pretending you didn't notice the shade, the jokes, the manipulation. And when you finally stopped pretending, their entire personality lost the Wi-Fi connection it ran on. You ever watch someone's confidence evaporate in real time? It's like you can see their ego buffering. They try to replay the old script, talk to you the old way, treat you the old way, manipulate you the old way. But, nothing loads. Because you're not subscribing to their nonsense anymore. You're not giving them the access you used to give for free. You're not handing out emotional discounts anymore. You're not letting people walk in and rearrange your piece like it's some training ground for their issues. You became someone they can't predict, and unpredictable you. That's the version that terrifies them, because your silence used to mean surrender. Now it means calculation. Your distance used to mean confusion. Now it means clarity. Your okay used to mean you'd tolerate it. Now it means you're done entertaining it. And the funniest thing, they don't know what to do with the version of you who finally respects yourself. It's like watching someone try to control a machine they never built, never understood, never cared to maintain. They pushed buttons they thought would still work. They used tones they thought would still intimidate you. They tested boundaries they thought would still bend. Nothing responded. Because once you healed the parts of you they fed on, you became unreachable in all the spaces where they used to drain you. And that's the moment their signal died. That's the moment they realized they can't play with you anymore. They can't access the innocence they abused. They can't access the fear they exploited. They can't access the confusion they twisted into control. You're operating on a whole different frequency. A frequency built from scars that turned into strategy, from heartbreak that turned into awareness, from betrayal that turned into boundaries, from silence that turned into strength. And, what makes this shift even more wild is that you didn't become cold. You didn't become bitter. You didn't become cruel. You became awake. Wide awake. Awake to the games. Awake to the patterns. Awake to the people who only show up when it benefits them. Awake to who you really are beneath all the noise, the mockery, the manipulation. And when someone finally wakes up, when someone finally learns how to see clearly, feel clearly, choose clearly, they stop moving the way fools expect. You move different now. Your posture is different. Your eyes are different. Your reactions are different. Your boundaries are different. Even your carries weight now. Like you're evaluating whether someone deserves your energy or not. And every time you choose yourself, every time you walk away from chaos, every time you stay calm in situations that used to break you, you create another outage in the lives of the people who thought you'd remain controllable forever. Their signal cut out the moment you stood up. But it stays out every time you decide you're not going back to being the character they wrote for you. And this shift keeps deepening in ways they never planned for. Because the longer you stay in this upgraded version of yourself, the more you start to notice the shift in the atmosphere around you. People don't approach you the same anymore. They don't talk to you with that fake confidence anymore. They don't test you with the same recycled nonsense anymore. You can literally feel the hesitation in their steps. You can feel that tiny pause before they speak, that little tremor in their tone, that awkward smile they weren't rehearsing before. It's like they're meeting you for the first time, even though you've been standing in front of them your whole life. And that's what awakening really looks like. Not some dramatic speech, not some loud announcement. It's this subtle, powerful shift in your energy that makes everyone else suddenly check their posture. Because, you stopped moving like someone waiting for permission. You move like someone who creates it. There's this undeniable presence about you now. Like you've become your own foundation. Like you learned how to carry yourself without shaking. Like you finally realized you don't have to audition for rooms you were born to reshape. and it rattles people who only knew the older, softer, quieter version of you. They depended on that version. They memorized that version. They curated entire strategies around that version. But they never prepared for this one. This version of you who doesn't flinch when someone raises their voice. This version of you who doesn't shrink when someone throws shade. This version of you who doesn't hand your power over just because someone demands it. This version of you who listens with a straight face as someone tries to manipulate you using tactics you've already decoded. It's unsettling for them. It's liberating for you. Because, the truth is, they never thought you'd outgrow the version they were comfortable stepping on. They never thought you'd see through the games they perfected. They never thought you'd start questioning the patterns you were trained to tolerate. They never thought you'd learn to walk with your own spine instead of leaning on someone else's validation. And the moment you did, their whole identity wobbled. Their certainty cracked, their mask slipped, their confidence flickered, like watching someone try to hold onto a rope they thought was pulling you down, only to realize you're not attached to it anymore. And they're the ones dangling. You didn't retaliate. You didn't scream. You didn't expose them. You didn't create chaos. You just stopped cooperating with their version of you. And that quiet refusal, that subtle, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore energy, that's what broke them. That's what made their signal cut out. That's what fried their whole emotional circuitry. Because they relied on you staying predictable, staying soft, staying confused, staying compliant, staying wounded. But you're not moving like that anymore. You're moving with choice, with clarity, with restraint, with purpose, with this almost unnerving calm that says, I finally know what I bring to the table and I'm done eating crumbs. And the thing that messes them up the most is that you didn't rise because of them. You rose in spite of them. Your power didn't come from proving anything to anyone. It came from understanding yourself deeply, from sitting with your wounds instead of hiding them, from building a backbone out of every moment you felt discarded. You didn't get stronger for applause. You got stronger because you had no other choice but to evolve when they kept underestimating you. And, that evolution didn't just change how you see them. It changed how you see yourself. You started recognizing the way your presence affects the room. You started noticing how people speak differently when they know they can't push you. You started seeing the fear behind the fake confidence of those who once mocked you. You started seeing the truth behind the way they suddenly avoid eye contact. Their signal didn't just cut out. Their whole operating system is trying to update itself to handle this new, powerful, self-aware version of you. Well, look at you. Not broken, not begging, not bowed. That's what makes you dangerous. See, most people only know how to deal with the version of you that needed love. The version that still explained itself. The version that gave second chances like candy. The version that kept saying, maybe they didn't mean it like that. The version that stayed soft, even when the world came at you with knives hidden behind smiles. But that version of you, it got educated. Not in some classroom, not by some podcast, not by some fake guru with perfect teeth and a rented lifestyle. No. Life put your face against the pavement and said, learn. And you did. That's the part they don't understand. They still think you're made of the same mercy they abused. They still think your silence means confusion. They still think your patience means weakness. They still think your kindness means they can keep pushing, keep testing, keep crossing lines and calling it a misunderstanding. But something changed in you. Not all at once. That would have been too easy. It happened slowly, quietly, painfully. It happened every time you got done dirty and had to act normal the next day. It happened every time you were losing your mind inside, but still had to answer, "I'm good," with a straight face. It happened when the people you would have bled for started moving funny. It happened when loyalty stopped being mutual. It happened when you realized some people don't love you. They love access to you. Access to your heart. Access to your energy. Access to your forgiveness. Access to the version of you that kept absorbing damage just to keep the peace. And once you saw that, really saw it, there was no going back. Because awareness changes a person. The moment you stop romanticizing disrespect, your whole spirit shifts. The moment you stop calling betrayal a lesson in patience and start calling it what it is, your eyes get colder. The moment you realize not everyone deserves your softness, your whole presence changes. That's when you started becoming the kind of person people feel before they understand. You ever walk into a room and nobody says anything but something in the air changes? Yeah, That's not confidence from a quote on social media. That's not fake toughness. That's not performance. That's consequence. That's what happens when somebody has suffered enough to stop playing with themselves. That's what happens when somebody has cried their last secret cry and decided, never again. That's what happens when somebody finally understands that being too available to the wrong people is self-destruction with a smile on your face. You became heavy, not in a broken way, in a dangerous way. Your words got fewer, your standards got sharper, your tolerance got expensive. And people noticed. Oh, they noticed. Maybe they couldn't explain it, but they felt it. They felt that you don't chase like you used to. They felt that you don't panic when someone pulls away. They felt that you can leave now. They felt that guilt doesn't move you the way it used to. They felt that access to you is no longer a guaranteed thing. And let me tell you something that'll make weak people nervous. When you stop reacting the way they trained you to react, they start losing control. That's when they call you cold. That's when they say you've changed. That's when they act like your boundaries are cruelty. That's when they bring up the old you, because the old you was easier to manipulate. But listen carefully. You were not born to be easy to exploit. You were not put here to be somebody's emotional punching bag. You were not created to keep proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You were not designed to keep shrinking so insecure people can feel tall. No, you were built for more than survival. You were built for command. You were built for impact. You were built to walk through chaos and come out with your soul sharper, not smaller. That's why the stuff that was supposed to ruin you ended up revealing you. Isn't that funny? They thought pressure would fold you. They thought betrayal would poison you. They thought isolation would finish you. They thought heartbreak would reduce you to a ghost of yourself. Instead, it stripped the nonsense out of you. You stopped needing applause. You stopped confusing attention for respect. You stopped begging people to see your value. You stopped explaining your pain to people who benefited from it. You stopped giving front row seats to people who only showed up to watch you bleed. And in that process, you became terrifying to anything fake. That's what people mean when they say some souls have a warning label. Not because you talk big, not because you act tough online, not because you threaten people, Because your energy says, clear as day, I survived things that would have turned most people into dust. Do not play with me like I'm still naive. That kind of presence shakes things. Even demons would think twice before crossing you. Not literal creatures with horns and fire. I'm talking about the demons people wear as personalities. The manipulator, the user, the liar, the jealous friend, the smiling traitor. The person who acts like your supporter in public, but studies your downfall in private. The one who gets weird when you win. The one who loves you most when you're doubting yourself, and likes you least when you remember who you are. Those demons know energy. They can sense when somebody is easy prey. They can sense when somebody still needs validation. They can sense when somebody's loneliness makes them negotiable. They can sense when somebody's fear of abandonment is stronger than their self-respect. But when they come across you now, they hesitate because they can feel that you've been through enough to recognize a mask before it finishes smiling. They can feel that your pattern recognition is vicious now. They can feel that your forgiveness is no longer automatic. They can feel that your departure is real. They can feel that you don't just hear words anymore. You read motives, and that changes everything. See, people think power is loud. They think it's domination. They think it's flexing. They think it's some dramatic performance where everybody knows you're the strongest person in the room. Wrong. Real power is when your nervous system no longer panics at the thought of losing people who treat you wrong. Real power is when peace matters more to you than popularity. Real power is when you can sit in silence and still know exactly who you are. Real power is when rejection doesn't convince you to betray yourself. Real power is when somebody tries to bait you into old behaviors and you just don't bite. That right there, that's lethal, because the world runs on reaction, on impulse, on emotional leakage, on people being easy to trigger, easy to flatter, easy to trap. But once you master yourself, once you stop handing people the remote control to your emotions, you become difficult to mess with. And difficult people get respected. Maybe not loved by everybody, maybe not understood by everybody, but respected. There's a reason your enemies got quieter. Did you notice that? There's a reason some people stopped trying you the same way. There's a reason the fake concern started sounding less confident. There's a reason the passive-aggressive energy got more careful. There's a reason the ones who used to play in your face now test the temperature before speaking. Because they can tell you're not standing in the same emotional place anymore. You used to be reachable through guilt. Now you're not. You used to be controllable through affection. Now you're not. You used to over-explain because you wanted to be understood. Now you understand that some people hear perfectly fine. They just benefit from pretending they don't. That realization alone will turn a soft-hearted person into a force of nature. And let's be honest, the world helped build this version of you. Every fake promise added steel to your spine. Every betrayal sharpened your instincts. Every lonely season taught you how to hold your own hand. Every public smile hiding private pain taught you discipline. Every time they counted you out taught you how to move in silence. Every time you had to rebuild without applause taught you how to become self-made in the deepest sense. That's why your comeback carries a different smell. It doesn't smell like ego. It smells like earned power. It smells like somebody who had every reason to collapse and still kept moving. It smells like somebody who got dragged through emotional warfare and came back with vision. It smells like somebody who stopped asking life for permission and started taking responsibility for the atmosphere around them. That's why when you speak now, it lands differently, because your words are not theory. They cost you something. They came out of nights nobody knows about. They came out of staring at ceilings, wondering how much more your heart could take. They came out of swallowing tears in places where breaking down wasn't an option. They came out of disappointments so deep they changed your relationship with trust forever. So when you say, "I'm not the one to play with," it doesn't sound like a line. It sounds like history, and history has weight. That's why your silence makes people nervous now, because silence from a healed fool means one thing. Silence from a sharpened soul means something else entirely. It means you noticed. It means you remembered. It means you're no longer available for nonsense. It means the game is over. It means whatever access they had to the old you has expired. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because some folks got addicted to your over-understanding nature. They got addicted to the way you gave grace before accountability. They got addicted to the way you doubted yourself before doubting them. They got addicted to the way you kept your standards low just to keep company. But you outgrew that. And growth is offensive to people who were feeding on your lack of it. Understand this. The moment you stop being convenient, some people will call you arrogant. The moment you stop bleeding where everyone can watch, some people will say you became emotionless. The moment you choose discipline over drama, some people will say you think you're better. Let them. People often insult what they can no longer access. You don't need to go to war with every misunderstanding. You don't need to clap back at every fake narrative. You don't need to prove your heart to people committed to misreading it. Sometimes the most disrespectful thing you can do to chaos is outgrow it so hard it can't recognize you anymore. That's the season you're in. You're not here to convince. You're here to become. Become so solid that manipulation slips off you. Become so calm that panic can't rent space in your chest. Become so sharp that confusion can't wear your face. Become so rooted that temporary people stop having permanent influence. Become so disciplined that your future starts obeying the standards your pain taught you. Because make no mistake, pain taught you standards. It taught you not to ignore red flags because someone is charming. It taught you not to call breadcrumbs love. It taught you not to keep translating disrespect into potential. It taught you not to hand your loyalty to people who haven't earned basic trust. It taught you that intuition whispers before disaster screams. It taught you that the body knows before the mouth admits it. It taught you that when something feels off, it usually is. Those lessons are expensive. Some people never learn them. Some people keep getting played because they're addicted to fantasy. They love the version of people they invented in their heads more than the truth standing in front of them. But not you anymore. Now you watch patterns. Now you listen to energy. Now you pay attention to consistency. Now you understand that real love doesn't confuse your nervous system. Now you understand that respect is not a bonus feature. It's the foundation. Now you understand that peace is not boring. Peace is luxury. That mindset alone separates you. Because a lot of people are still out here being chosen by everyone except themselves. Still betraying their gut for company. Still saying yes while their soul is screaming no. Still calling chaos chemistry. still mistaking attention for care, still letting empty people take up sacred space. You've moved past that. And do you know what happens when a person truly moves past survival patterns? They become hard to bait. You can't seduce them with cheap validation. You can't distract them with surface-level affection. You can't scare them with withdrawal. You can't trap them with inconsistency and call it mystery. You can't keep them in confusion and call it passion. They've seen too much. That's you now. You've seen what fake loyalty looks like. You've seen how envy hides behind compliments. You've seen how some people celebrate your wounds because it makes them feel less insecure. You've seen how people will call you selfish the moment you stop self-abandoning. You've seen how weak character always resents strong boundaries. So now you move different, not paranoid, prepared. There's a difference. Paranoia makes you fear everything. Preparation makes you respect reality. Preparation says, I can love deeply and still leave when the energy turns rotten. Preparation says, I can be compassionate without becoming available for abuse. Preparation says, I can forgive and still never open that door again. Preparation says, I can wish you well from a distance so far, it feels like another universe. That is grown power. That is dangerous peace. That is the type of energy that makes dark intentions rethink the mission. Because when you know yourself, really know yourself, games stop working. Flattery stops working. Threats stop working. Silent treatment stops working. Breadcrumbs stop working. Half-love stops working. Performative apologies stop working. Why? Because your standards are no longer negotiable when you're lonely. That's the real flex. Not money, not fame, not looking untouchable. Holding the line when your heart is hungry. Holding the line when you miss people who were bad for you. Holding the line when the familiar chaos starts looking romantic again. Holding the line when your old coping mechanisms come calling with sweet voices. That's where the war really is. And every time you choose yourself in that moment, you get stronger. Every time you walk away from what once had power over you, you get colder in the right way. Every time you refuse to abandon your peace just to feel chosen, you send a message to your own soul. I'm with you now. That changes a person at the core. Because once you become someone your own soul can trust, the whole world starts reading you differently. Your walk changes. Your eyes change. Your timing changes. Your language changes. The kind of people you attract changes. The kind of nonsense you tolerate disappears. That's why your life started getting quieter. Not emptier, cleaner. There's a big difference. Less noise, less fake urgency, less emotional chaos, less random access, less explaining, less proving, less entertaining disrespect just because you're trying to be nice. And with all that space, your real power had room to breathe. Your focus got stronger, your discipline got meaner, your intuition got louder, your self-respect got teeth. Now when something crosses you, you don't need a whole committee to verify what you felt. You don't need 10 more signs. You don't need closure delivered in perfect wording. You don't need somebody to confess what your spirit already caught. You just know. And that knowing, that clean, centered, unshakable knowing, that's what makes even demons pause. Because evil, fake energy, manipulative energy, predatory energy, whatever name you want to give it, it thrives on hesitation. It thrives on self-doubt. It thrives on people who don't trust their own eyes. It thrives on people who explain away their own pain. But when it meets somebody who has turned suffering into sight, the script falls apart. That's you. You are not scary because you want revenge. You are scary because you no longer need it. You are not powerful because you dominate. You are powerful because you are no longer easily dominated. You are not dangerous because you yell. You are dangerous because your boundaries don't shake when emotions rise. You are not intense because life was easy. You are intense because you survived what should have erased you and still kept your soul intact. That is rare, and rare things are either respected or attacked, sometimes both. So don't be surprised when your evolution makes insecure people uncomfortable. Don't be surprised when your standards expose people. Don't be surprised when your peace irritates those who fed on your confusion. Don't be surprised when your glow starts revealing who secretly hoped you'd stay broken. That's not your problem. Your responsibility now is not to become bitter. It's to become precise. Precise with your energy. Precise with your trust. Precise with your yes. Precise with your no. Precise with where your attention goes. Precise with what gets access to your inner world. Because attention is expensive, energy is sacred, and your peace was paid for in blood, tears, swallowed anger, lonely rebuilding, and silent prayers nobody heard but you. Stop handing it out like it's cheap. You are not the same person who once tolerated things just because you were afraid to lose people. You are not the same person who confused being needed with being loved. You are not the same person who stayed soft with sharp people and called it maturity. You are not the same person who kept hoping broken character would eventually become safe. No. Now you can feel danger faster. Now you can smell envy quicker. Now you can hear disrespect under the joke. Now you can see manipulation behind the compliment. Now you can sense when somebody is trying to study your weaknesses instead of honor your presence. And because you can sense it, you don't freeze anymore. You move. You detach. You redirect. You protect. You continue. There's something different about you. And the room feels it before you even say a word. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying too hard, not because you walk around begging people to notice you. No, it's because there's something in your energy that doesn't sit right with fake people. Something in your silence that makes weak minds start filling in blanks. Something in the way you move that makes people wonder what the hell you know that they don't. And that's the part that gets them. Because most people can survive confidence, most people can tolerate talent, most people can even cope with somebody being attractive, successful, funny, smart, connected, whatever. But what they cannot handle is somebody they can't read, somebody they can't predict, somebody they can't reduce to a neat little label so they can feel safe around them. That's where you start breaking brains. See, the world is obsessed with categories. They want to know if you're weak or dangerous, broken or healed, kind or cruel, soft or savage, follower or threat, easy to manipulate or impossible to control. And when they can't figure that out, they panic. Not always out loud, not always in dramatic ways. Sometimes it shows up as fake concern. Sometimes it shows up as weird energy. Sometimes it shows up as gossip. Sometimes it shows up as people watching you a little too closely while pretending they don't care. Sometimes it shows up as somebody trying to provoke you, just to see what version of you comes out. Because confusing people is one thing, but making people realize they can't map your mind, that does something to them. That hits a nerve. Because people feel powerful when they can explain you. The second they can explain you, they can dismiss you. The second they can label you, they can control the story. The second they can predict your next move, they can get comfortable. But you don't stay still long enough for that. Every time they think they've got you, you shift. Every time they think you're just quiet, you speak with precision and cut straight through the fog. Every time they think you're angry, you show discipline. Every time they think you're soft, you show teeth. Every time they think you're cold, you show depth. Every time they think you've given up, you come back sharper than before. And now they're stuck because you don't fit the narrative they made about you in their head. That's why some people study you in secret. Yeah, let's say it plain. Some people are low-key obsessed with understanding you. Not because they admire you in a healthy way. Not because they want to support you. Not because they love your spirit. They study you because uncertainty makes them itch. They replay your words. They notice your patterns. They scroll your page. They ask about you. They compare stories. They pay attention to what makes you react and what doesn't. They look for evidence that you're just another ordinary, explainable person. And every time they come back with empty hands, it messes with them a little more. Because your mind isn't built like theirs. You know pain without wearing it like a costume. You know loneliness without letting it make you pathetic. You know betrayal without turning into a copy of the people who hurt you. You know chaos without needing to announce it every 5 seconds. That right there is rare, because most people leak everything. Their insecurity leaks, their jealousy leaks, their fear leaks, their desperation leaks, their need for validation leaks all over every conversation, every caption, every decision. But you learned how to carry storms without making them everybody else's weather. And people don't understand that. They expect damage to look sloppy. They expect hurt to look weak. They expect trauma to sound dramatic. They expect struggle to make you obvious. But what happens when somebody went through hell? And instead of becoming loud about it, they became precise. What happens when somebody got overlooked so many times that they stopped performing and started observing? What happens when somebody got betrayed enough times that they stopped explaining themselves and started moving different? That's when you become hard to classify. That's when people start saying weird stuff about you. You're hard to read. You're mysterious. You seem chill but intense. You act like you know something. You're not like everybody else. There's just something about you. Yeah, that something is what survival looks like after it stops asking for permission. That something is what happens when your mind has been forced to evolve in places where nobody clapped for you. You became mentally layered, not fake, not performative, not confused, layered. You learned how to smile and still keep your guard up. You learned how to care without oversharing. You learned how to show love without abandoning yourself. You learned how to stand alone without looking lonely. You learned how to be kind without becoming easy prey. And that's what scares people, because they were counting on you being simple. They were counting on you reacting in obvious ways. They were counting on you chasing, begging, explaining, crumbling, oversharing, losing your mind in public so they could feel superior. But instead, you got quieter, sharper, cleaner, more controlled. You stopped giving people free access to your inner world. Now all they can do is watch the outside and guess. And they hate guessing. especially the kind of people who survive by reading weaknesses. You gotta understand this. A lot of people don't connect. They scan. They don't listen to understand. They listen to locate your insecurity. They don't ask questions because they care. They ask questions because they're checking for openings. They want to know what makes you feel small. What makes you chase approval? What makes you flinch? What makes you settle? What makes you easy to manipulate? That's why some people get weird when they meet somebody like you. Because your mind doesn't open on command. You've got depths they can sense, but can't access. You've got scars they can feel, but can't use. You've got thoughts they know are heavy, but you don't spill them cheaply. And in a world where everybody is oversharing for crumbs of attention, your restraint looks dangerous. Let that sink in. Your restraint looks dangerous. Your composure looks suspicious. Your self-control looks threatening. Your ability to stay calm when other people are spiraling makes them wonder what kind of war built you. And the truth, a real one. Life built you. Disappointment built you. Being misunderstood built you. Being underestimated built you. Getting done dirty by people you would have never played with, like that, built you. Sitting alone with your thoughts when nobody checked on you, built you. Having to figure it out with your chest tight and your back against the wall, built you. That's why your mind moves the way it does. It's not random. It's not some edgy act. It's what happens when a person has had to become their own witness, their own protector, their own coach, their own comfort, their own backup, their own reminder to not break. See, some of the strongest things about you were never taught to you. Gently. You learned awareness through betrayal. You learned patience through delay. You learned discipline through deprivation. You learned discernment through disappointment. You learned emotional control because blowing up would have cost too much. So now when people try to decode you with basic logic, it fails. Because basic logic can't explain a mind that was forged under pressure and still chose not to fold. They think if you're hurt, you should be messy. If you're smart, you should be arrogant. If you're strong, you should be loud. If you're dangerous, you should announce it. If you're healing, you should be soft all the time. But you keep breaking their little formulas. You can be compassionate and unreadable. You can be wounded and still disciplined. You can be isolated and still powerful. You can be tired and still impossible to dominate. You can feel deeply and still move strategically. That combination fries people because they only know extremes. They only understand cartoon versions of human beings, either saint or villain, either broken or bossed up, either emotional or logical, either forgiving or ruthless. But you're more complex than that. You can forgive and never give access again. You can love people and still leave them behind. You can feel pain and not let it rewrite your standards. You can stay humble and still know exactly how valuable you are. You can walk away peacefully while somebody else is still trying to bait you into becoming the old version of yourself. That kind of evolution is terrifying to people who need you to stay familiar. You know what really bothers them? It's not just that they can't explain your mind. It's that they can feel you're operating from somewhere deeper than impulse. They can sense that you think before you move, that you observe before you trust, that you notice everything, that you remember more than you say, that even when you're laughing, there's a part of your mind still reading the room. And no, That doesn't mean you're paranoid. It means you've lived enough life to know that not everybody clapping for you is with you. Not everybody asking questions is interested in your well-being. Not everybody smiling is safe. Not everybody who says, "I got you," can carry your weight when it matters. So, you adapted. And adaptation always looks strange to people who never had to survive anything serious. They call it overthinking because they've never had to pay for trusting the wrong person. They call it intensity because they've never had to build themselves back up in silence. They call it too much because they've never had to become mentally armored just to stay soft in the right places. But you know better. You know your mind had to become this way because there were seasons where nobody came to save you. Seasons where being naive would have ruined you. Seasons where one bad decision could have sunk everything. Seasons where you were getting hit from angles you didn't even see coming. And still, somehow, you didn't become soulless. That's the wildest part. You didn't become empty. You didn't become fully cruel. You didn't become one of those people who hurt others just because you got hurt. Nah. You became selective. You became deliberate. You became hard to access but meaningful to know. That's power. Real power isn't being the loudest in the room. Real power isn't flexing non-stop. Real power isn't acting untouchable on the internet. Real power is being able to carry a mind full of contradictions without collapsing into confusion. Real power is being able to say, "Yeah, I've seen darkness," and still not worship it. Real power is being able to sit with rage and not hand it the steering wheel. Real power is knowing you could destroy things, but choosing precision over chaos. Real power is not needing to explain your depth to people committed to misunderstanding you. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. You do not owe anybody a simpler version of yourself just so they can relax. You do not owe fake comfort to people who only feel safe when you are small. You do not owe transparency to people who never earned access. You do not owe predictability to people who benefited from your confusion. You do not owe softness to people who only show up to test your boundaries. You do not owe an explanation every time your growth makes somebody else uncomfortable. Let them be confused. Let them overanalyze. Let them whisper. Let them compare notes. Let them try to gather clues from your silence. Let them replay conversations trying to figure out whether you're healed, dangerous, broken, brilliant, detached, or all of the above. Because while they're wasting energy trying to classify you, you should be building your peace, building your standards, building your body, building your discipline, building your money, building your environment, building your future so solid that one day the same people who couldn't read you will be forced to watch what they failed to understand. You know what the truth is? Some people don't fear what you've done. They fear what you might do once your focus fully locks in. They can feel it, that you're not even at full capacity yet, that a lot of what they're sensing in you is still undeployed, that the version of you they're studying now is still mid-transformation, and that scares them more, because deep down, they know this isn't your final form. This is you while healing. This is you while rebuilding. This is you while still carrying old weight and learning how to drop it. This is you while still doubting yourself sometimes. This is you before total clarity. This is you before complete alignment. This is you before your confidence becomes effortless. So imagine what happens when you stop shrinking. Imagine what happens when you stop second-guessing the instincts that kept you alive. Imagine what happens when you stop apologizing for being hard to manipulate. Imagine what happens when you stop trying to look harmless for people who are always gonna project onto you anyway. Imagine what happens when you fully accept that some of your weirdest qualities are actually your survival gifts, your silence, your pattern recognition, your emotional depth, your ability to detach, your ability to see through performances, your ability to sit alone and regroup, your refusal to fold under shallow pressure, your instinct for reading energy before words. Those things are not flaws. Those things are part of your edge. And yeah, edges make people nervous. Good. Not everybody deserves comfort around you. Not everybody deserves to feel like they have you figured out. Not everybody deserves access to your rawest thoughts. Not everybody deserves the map to a mind that was expensive to build. Because it was expensive, you paid for this mind. Maybe not with money, but with nights, with heartbreak, with humiliation, with isolation, with mistakes, with moments where you had to swallow pain and function anyway, with mornings where your chest felt heavy, but the world still expected output, with seasons where nobody saw the internal war, and you still had to act normal. So don't let anybody make you feel wrong for becoming mentally rare. Don't let average minds pathologize your complexity. Don't let insecure people convince you your depth is a problem. Don't let people with shallow intentions shame you for being guarded. Don't let anybody guilt you into becoming easier to consume. You are not content. You are not a toy for other people's curiosity. You are not a public puzzle that owes strangers a solution. You are a living mind, a dangerous one if necessary, a disciplined one if respected, a compassionate one if safe, a ruthless one if pushed too far, a visionary one when focused, a healing one even after everything. That's why they can't explain you, because you are not one note. You are grief that learned strategy. You are sensitivity that learned armor. You are chaos that learned rhythm. You are pain that learned posture. You are loneliness that learned self-respect. You are fire that learned where not to burn. And there is something almost unsettling about a person who has every reason to lose themselves, but doesn't. A person who has every excuse to become reckless, but becomes intentional instead. A person who has every reason to beg for love, but chooses standards. A person who has every reason to prove themselves, but learns to move without announcing every step. That kind of person changes rooms. That kind of person changes outcomes. That kind of person doesn't need to scream power. Power leaks off them quietly. And maybe nobody ever told you that. Maybe people spent more time calling you distant than disciplined. Maybe they called you complicated because they lacked the depth to meet you. Maybe they called you intimidating because they wanted you easier to access. Maybe they called you weird because they couldn't control the emotional weather around you. Maybe they made your self-protection sound like a flaw because your boundaries exposed their habits. But don't get it twisted. Not being easy to read is not a curse. When the world is full of people who weaponize information, not being easy to manipulate is not arrogance. Not being emotionally sloppy is not coldness. Not being instantly available is not cruelty. Not giving everybody the same version of you is not fake. It's wisdom. It's pattern recognition. It's earned caution. It's what happens when your spirit finally understands that access should be sacred. So, stop doubting the very traits that kept you alive. Stop trying to look normal to people who benefit from normal minds. Stop trying to make your complexity digestible for those who were never gonna honor it. Stop editing your edge just because it makes unhealed people nervous. Let them call you intense. Let them say you're hard to figure out. Let them wonder why you don't react the way they expected. Let them keep building theories. Let them keep trying to decode a mind that was shaped in places they would not have survived. And while they're busy doing that, keep sharpening, keep learning, keep healing, keep training your focus, keep protecting your peace, keep stacking evidence that your life is moving in a direction deeper than appearances. Keep becoming so aligned that one day your presence alone answers questions people used to ask behind your back. Because the goal was never to be understood by everybody. The goal is to become so solid in your own mind that misunderstanding no longer shakes you.